They say a child becomes what they see, but what if all you see is chaos? My first memories weren't lullabies or bedtime stories. They were shattered bottles and slammed doors. My father's rage filled the walls. My mother's sobs echoed through cigarette smoke. I learned early that silence was safer than truth. I used to hide under the kitchen table, counting the seconds between screams, trying to guess which one would come next. The crash, the slap, or the lie that followed. I didn't know it then, but I was already addicted. Not to drugs, not yet, but to the only thing that kept me alive. Surviving. What if the place meant to protect you becomes the one that breaks you? What if the people you love most teach you how to destroy yourself? What? Sometimes I imagined other houses, places where fathers smiled and mothers sang. I'd watch cartoons through neighbors' windows, pretending their laughter belonged to me. But every time I came home, reality hit harder. My father's hands weren't built for holding only hurting. My mother's love was a whisper drowned in smoke. I used to draw pictures of families on clean paper, hoping if I believed hard enough mine would change. But even crayons can't cover bruises. By 10, I'd learned to disappear. The world outside didn't care, but at least it didn't hurt. I'd wander the alleys until dark, pretending I was invisible. Sometimes, I'd find my mother crying on the porch, whispering that she'd leave tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Tomorrow was just another broken promise dressed in hope. I remember one night when everything went silent. No yelling, no bottles, just silence. I thought maybe peace had finally found us. But silence can be the loudest sound in a house like ours, the kind that warns you something's about to break. That night was the first time I understood death. Not as an end, but as something that lives in you when hope dies. My mother survived, but a part of me didn't. From then on, I stopped believing in safety. I stopped believing in love. I learned that lies could be armor, and I wore them like a second skin. By the time I was 13, I'd already learned how to disappear in plain sight. School didn't matter. Teachers stopped asking questions. I found friends who carried the same emptiness, kids who spoke the language of pain fluently. We'd skip class, smoke behind the old factory, and pretend we were untouchable. The first time I got high, it felt like breathing for the first time. Like the noise in my head finally went quiet. But peace borrowed from poison always comes with interest, and sooner or later, the debt comes due. We called it freedom. Staying out all night, stealing from corner stores, getting high under bridges. We thought we were breaking rules. Really. We were building cages. Every drag, every pill, it all felt like control. But it was just another way of running. I didn't see it then. But I was becoming everything I swore I'd never be. When the fights at home got worse, I stopped going back. I slept in the park, behind stores, wherever the cops wouldn't find me. Hunger burned, but the drugs dulled it. I started selling a little, stealing a little more. People looked at me and saw trouble. They weren't wrong. But underneath the dirt and anger, I was just a kid who wanted someone to say, "Come home." Lena was the only one who really saw me. She wasn't afraid of my anger or my scars. She'd tell me, "We're the same, you and me, just trying to stay alive." One night we promised each other we'd leave, start over somewhere clean. But the truth is, you can't run from what's inside you. You take it wherever you go. The night the cops came, I wasn't scared. I was tired. Tired of running, lying, fighting. They found me with stolen cash and a pocket full of pills. My father didn't show up at the station. My mother did, eyes sunken, smelling of cheap perfume and regret. She looked at me like she was staring at a ghost. I guess she was. Freedom didn't come after juvie, just a new kind of prison. I told myself I was done with drugs, with lies, with pain. But the moment I got out, the streets welcomed me like an old friend. I didn't go home. Couldn't. I started dealing again. Small stuff at first, then bigger. I was good at hiding behind confidence I didn't feel. People respected fear and I knew how to use it. But every night, when it got quiet, I'd hear my mother's voice calling my name through the noise of memory. I never answered. Maybe I didn't deserve to. Money came fast, trust came slow, and violence came easy. The streets taught me how to survive, but they also taught me how to forget I was human. Fights, deals, nights that blurred into mornings. I started becoming my father without even realizing it. Sometimes I'd see my reflection in a shop window and not recognize the man staring back. I wasn't running anymore. I was falling. Then came the night that changed everything. We were supposed to make an easy deal. Quick cash, no drama. But greed has a way of showing up uninvited. Someone else pulled a knife. Someone else pulled a gun. I don't remember the sound, just the silence afterward. When I looked down, there was blood on my hands. I didn't know whose. I just ran. Lena disappeared after that night. No calls, no trace. Maybe she was gone. Maybe she just chose to live. I couldn't blame her. I drifted from town to town, chasing highs that no longer worked. Sometimes I'd find myself outside my childhood house. Lights off, weeds in the yard, ghosts in every window. My parents were both gone by then. Overdose, liver failure, 2 different exits to the same story. That should broken me. Instead, it just made me numb. That night, I finally understood what it meant to lose everything. The house, the family, the friends, all gone. All that was left was me and the echo of my choices. I sat on a curb outside a liquor store, half drunk, half dead inside, and I remember thinking, maybe this is what I was born for, to follow the same path until it ends. But then, for the first time in years, I cried. Not for them. For me. For the boy who never got to be a kid. There's a moment every addict meets. That thin line between living and dying. And you can't tell which side you're on. For me, it came on a winter night in a rundown motel. The kind where the walls sweat regret. I'd been high for 3 days straight. Heart racing, body trembling, staring at my reflection in a cracked mirror. I didn't see Eli anymore. I saw my father. His anger, his emptiness, his ruin. That's when the fear came, not of dying, but of becoming him completely. The knock on the door wasn't a cop or a dealer. It was Lena. I hadn't seen her in years. She looked different. Clean, calm, almost unreal. She said she'd heard about my mother's death, about everything. Her voice trembled when she said, "Ely, you're next if you don't stop." I wanted to tell her I couldn't. That the pain was too deep, the guilt too loud. But she just looked at me, not with pity, but with truth. "Then don't do it for you," she said. "Do it for the boy you left behind." That was the night I overdosed. Not by choice, maybe by exhaustion. My body just gave up. I remember Lena's scream, the sirens, the hands pressing my chest. Then nothing. Darkness, deep and endless. And in that darkness, I saw them. My parents standing together, silent. My mother's hand reached out, not in blame, but in forgiveness. My father turned away. Maybe redemption isn't about who forgives you. Maybe it's about forgiving yourself. When I woke up in the hospital, everything was quiet. No shouting, no chaos, no lies. Just the slow beeping of a heart monitor. Mine. The doctor said I'd almost died. Lena was there, asleep in a chair, her hand resting on mine. For the first time, I didn't feel ashamed. Just empty. I realized I didn't want to die. Not yet. Maybe that was the first honest thought I'd had in years. They transferred me to rehab 2 weeks later. I didn't believe in miracles, but something inside me wanted to try. The first night there, I sat in a circle of strangers, each broken in their own way. When it was my turn to speak, I couldn't. My throat closed, tears burned, and all I could whisper was, "My name is Ellie, and I'm tired." The room went silent. Then someone said, "That's a good place to start." Rehab wasn't what I expected. There were no miracles, no magic fixes, just long days, harder nights, and the kind of silence that forced you to face yourself. I hated it at first. Hated the honesty, the waiting, the slow crawl of days that felt like years. But in that stillness, I started to hear something I hadn't heard in a long time, my own heartbeat. It wasn't strong, but it was steady. And for the first time, I realized maybe that was enough. Every morning started the same. Group therapy at dawn, coffee that tasted like regret, and stories that could shatter your heart. But those stories built something between us, a strange kind of family. Each person there carried a lifetime of pain, yet somehow we lifted each other through it. It wasn't about being fixed. It was about being understood. Pastor Miguel was different. He didn't preach. He listened. He told me that forgiveness isn't about excusing the past, but releasing its grip. "You've carried your pain like a badge," he said one day, "but maybe it's time to lay it down." That night, I wrote a letter to my parents, not asking for answers, just saying goodbye. When I finished, I didn't feel light, but I felt ready. The hardest part wasn't staying clean. It was learning how to live again, how to smile without shame, how to trust that tomorrow wouldn't fall apart. Lena came every weekend. She'd sit with me under the old oak behind the facility, reading from her journal, laughing like the years hadn't stolen anything from us. I used to think I didn't deserve her forgiveness. Now I think maybe forgiveness was her way of surviving too. The day I left rehab, I didn't feel cured. I felt raw, stripped down to the truth. The counselor handed me a coin and said, "This isn't a reward. It's a reminder." I looked at the coin for a long time. It wasn't the medal that mattered. It was the meaning. I'd been given another chance, not to erase my story, but to write the rest differently. And maybe that was redemption's quiet beginning. Recovery doesn't end when the drugs stop. That's when the real work begins. The world outside felt louder, sharper, more real than I remembered. Every sound, every temptation called my name. But this time I had something stronger. Purpose. I found a job washing dishes at a small diner downtown. It wasn't much, but it was honest. Every plate I scrubbed felt like another piece of myself being cleaned too. Sometimes the owner would smile and say, "You've got steady hands, kid." He didn't know they used to shake from the needle. Some days were good. Others, not so much. Cravings hit like ghosts. A smell, a song, a memory. They'd come without warning, pulling me back toward the edge. When that happened, I'd drive to the rehab center and sit outside, just to remember what I'd survived. Pastor Miguel once told me, "Strength isn't about never falling again. It's about refusing to stay down." I held on to that. One afternoon, I got a letter. No return address, just my name. Inside was a photo of Lena speaking at a recovery event. She looked radiant, free. On the back, she'd written, "Come share your story." The idea terrified me. Me, standing in front of people, talking about everything I'd tried to bury. But maybe that was the point, to bring it to light so it couldn't own me anymore. The first time I spoke, my voice trembled. The words came out cracked and uneven, but real. I told them about the house filled with lies, the mirror that showed my father's face, the overdose that almost took me. And when I looked up, I saw tears, not pity, but understanding. It hit me then. My pain wasn't just mine. It belonged to anyone who ever thought they were too far gone. After the meeting, Lena hugged me and whispered, "You finally came home." I didn't realize until that moment that she was right. Home wasn't a house or a past you can fix. It was the peace you find when you stop running. That night, I walked through the city alone. The streets were still rough, but I wasn't scared anymore. I'd found something stronger than fear. Truth. Years pass differently when you're clean. Every day feels borrowed. A gift you never thought you'd live to open. I still wake up sometimes expecting the chaos, the shouting, the smell of smoke. But now is quiet. Peace. I rent a small place above the diner I still work in, the same one that took me in when no one else would. Sometimes, I look at my reflection in the mirror and finally see myself. Not my father's shadow, not my mistakes, just Eli. Every Sunday, I visit the rehab center. Not because I have to, because I need to. I tell the newcomers what someone once told me. You are not your worst mistake. Some believe me, some don't. I understand both. Some don't. Pastor Miguel still runs the group, slower now but steady. He once said, "Redemption isn't loud, it whispers." I think about that every time I see someone's eyes fill with hope for the first time. One evening, I drove back to the street where I grew up. The house was gone, bulldozed, just dirt and weeds now. But standing there, I didn't feel anger. I felt release. I whispered, "I forgive you." To the ghosts of my parents, and maybe to myself too. The wind carried it away, like it had been waiting all this time. Sometimes letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about finally being free to remember without pain. A year later, Lena and I started a small outreach program, meetings, sheltered beds, and meals for kids like we once were. Every time I see one of them walk through the door, lost and trembling, I remember the boy under the kitchen table, counting seconds between screams. He didn't die in that house. He's right here. Alive, speaking, helping others find their way back. Maybe that's what redemption really is. Turning your pain to someone else's map home. Sometimes I think about the path that brought me here. The violence, the drugs, the lies. I used to wish it all away. But now I see it differently. Every scar, every loss, every broken night. They built the man I became. I'm not proud of my past, but I'm not ashamed of it either. Because it led me here, standing in front of others, telling them the truth that saved my life. You are never too far gone. Redemption isn't something you find. It's something you choose every single day.